is one of the only so-called representative democracies in the world that is utterly dominated by two parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, the left versus the right. It's all a manufactured paradigm, when in reality both parties are more in line with each other than the majority of Americans are in line with them. What's even more frustrating is how hard it is to break through the political system as an independent or third-party candidate without being completely marginalized by the media. Well, one woman is taking that chance. Her name is Marianne Williamson, and she's running as an independent for California's 33rd District. But she's also been a New York Times best-selling author in the subject of spirituality and self-improvement 4 different times. She joins me now to talk about her transition from self-help guru to politician. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Marianne, you're primarily known as a spiritual teacher and author, not exactly something someone associates with politics. So why did you decide to jump into the political ring?
Well, isn't that the problem, though, that anybody is not associated with politics? Isn't part of the problem that we have a kind of political class and politics has become a kind of spectator sport? Everybody should feel that they're part of that show. Even Eisenhower said politics should be the part-time profession of every American citizen.
Very good point. I totally agree with you. It's time to take it out of the inside baseball. In a Huffington Post op-ed you wrote recently entitled "A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Primary," I wanted to read a quote from it. "We don't have an open political system. We have a political elite ruled by political parties that decides who gets to play. Whoever's playing, however nice a person, is part of the same conversation we've been having for years. The stale, worn-out rhetoric that promises to do little more than perpetuate the system as it is." I cannot agree more with that. How have you experienced this phenomenon firsthand as someone running outside of that two-party structure?
Well, you know, I think more than anything else, we just have to disenthrall ourselves, as Lincoln would say. It's just a thought we have. You know, we have a two-party duopoly, as you're well aware, and it has a chokehold on the system, and it's sucking the oxygen out of our public discourse. But there's no need for it. I think Americans just need to be taught some of our own history. There's no mention of political parties in our founding documents. George Washington warned us against them in his farewell address. Abolition did not come from a major party. Suffrage did not come from a major party. The civil rights movement did not come from a major party. The parties, although they certainly have their role to play, but they should be here to serve us. We shouldn't be having to filter all of our thoughts through their ideologies. And, you know, JFK said we should be seeking not the Democratic answer or the Republican answer, but the right answer. And at a time today, as you mentioned yourself, when the more disturbing news is how similar they are compared to how dissimilar they are, I think it's time for some voices that just don't buy into the idea that we have to be one or the other.
And you describe yourself as a lifelong Democrat, yet you're running as an independent. Why did you choose to distance yourself from the party, and what do you see as the most fundamental flaw of the left-wing establishment?
Well, I don't think of myself as really distancing from the party. I think the party has distanced itself from me. I think if you look at someone like Bernie Sanders, he acts in many cases more like a Democrat, as I think of a Democrat acting, than many Democrats do. And so what's happened today is that progressives have this codependent relationship with the Democratic Party. They keep getting more corporatist and in many cases more militarist, and progressives say, oh, okay, and enable them one more time. One thing you have to give to the Tea Party, they're not in a codependent relationship with the Republican Party. And I think it's really important for progressives who are treated like the Democratic Party in too many cases, not all cases, but in too many, like, you know, we come to you when there's an election, we ignore you till the next one. I just think many of us can't toe the line anymore. I just know that I can't. But I would caucus with Democrats. You know, like I said, I am a Bobby Kennedy Democrat, and it's hard. Like Wellstone said, I'm from the Democratic wing of the Democratic Party. It's hard for me as a Democrat to find too much comfort anymore within the purview of the Democratic Party. Well, yeah. I'm open. I hope that this election, you know, one of the reasons I hope I win, Abby, is because I think it would really perhaps inspire a movement by which the Democrats get their soul back. Not the people, but the party.
Sure. Well, I've heard some people say that if Nixon were running today, he'd be the most liberal Democrat out there. It's pretty shocking how far right everything has kind of shifted. Let's talk about your fundraising efforts. According to Open Secrets, you've already raised over $382,000, far surpassing your other opponents. How have you been able to do this?
It's grassroots. you know, part of the way Americans are locked out today, and that's why I'm running this campaign, the average American is locked out of what should be considered the minimum in terms of access to political influence, educational opportunity, and economic opportunity. And the way that works, of course, with this legalized system of bribery and corruption we have, especially since Citizens United, by which moneyed forces wield such disproportionate influence over our political system compared to the average citizen, is how expensive it is to run for office, if you don't either have wealth or have access to wealth. So I looked at my 400,000 names on Facebook and my 200,000 on Twitter, because I have been writing books, you know. My first book came out in 1992, so I've been out there for a while. And I thought to myself, looking at my social media numbers, I thought, well, if everybody sends me $5, I could do this. And it's a grassroots campaign. I've announced publicly I'm not taking PAC money, I'm not taking lobbyist money, and my average donation is $59.
Amazing.
So and that's how it should be.
Sure. Sure. No, we're almost out of time. I just wanted to get to a couple more things, but that is incredible. But you're saying that you're still not being treated as a legitimate candidate, even though you've made a lot of money through grassroots fundraising. I mean, what other factors are leading to your dismissal?
Well, you know what the factors are, is this sort of media political elite, but it's okay. I mean, that's what I would, if I were the Democrats today, my strategy would be to ignore me and pretend that I don't exist. So, you know, I can't blame them for that. And the media, you know, I think when Henry Waxman first announced his retirement, it's all horse races, and it's, oh, in the horse race, is it this Democrat or that Democrat? But, you know, part of running with any real principle is that the horse race isn't what you're doing this for. And, you know, the only thing that matters is what the voters have to say on June 3rd, on our primary, June 3rd. So I think a lot of people are coming to understand that I would not be a threat to the Democratic Party. I don't think anybody sees Bernie Sanders as a threat to the Democratic Party. And also, people are coming to understand that he doesn't lack power in the Senate. I think that people here in Los Angeles are beginning to understand that the election of an independent candidate, particularly someone running on the platform of getting the money out of politics, would really help create a space, an opening, a possibility for this kind of a candidacy and a winning candidacy throughout the country. And LA likes to do things first. You know, this is a district that doesn't really like same old anything, and people are really responding to the idea that we start new conversations here. This is what we do. This is why people live in California. California, this area starts a new conversation. It's a national trend within 5 years. And I think that's one of the selling points of this campaign. I think it's an exciting idea that it's just not going to be perpetuating the system as it is when all of us know it's not working.
Indeed, California could set a lot of things in motion here. Let's talk about some of the other major points of your political platform. You're on board with several bills that Representative Barbara Lee has proposed, including the moratorium on the use of drones, the repeal of the authorization for use of military force. I mean, as much as I believe in these things, these issues seem to be dead in the water on Capitol Hill. How would you get Congress to seriously consider them?
Well, listen, I'm not naive about what one congresswoman can do, particularly a first-term congressperson who, particularly now that it's an open seat, anybody will be. So I'm not naive. I wouldn't be going to Washington with a magic wand. No one would, and no one should be able to. But on the other hand, I think conviction is a force multiplier. And particularly as an independent candidate, not feeling shackled, I think that hopefully the contribution of my voice, both within Congress and because I have a national platform of some kind outside Congress as well, to use whatever power that I have in terms of audience nationally to talk about these things in a way that makes more people wake up and more people ask their congresspeople and their candidates around the country, what's going on with these drones? I don't think the average person even realizes, Abby, the power of these things. They can know who you slept with, what you just logged onto on your computer, what room you just walked into, and they are coming. And, you know, the same government that has been forced to acknowledge NSA spying tells us in relation to drones not to worry, because they're going to have to adhere to all privacy laws, state, federal, and local. Americans who listen to this are guffawing. We just need to continue the buzz. It's like you create with your show. A lot of voices are out there now. I think something's already rumbling, and I just believe that these voices need to also be represented in electoral candidacies like mine.
Something is definitely brewing, a revolution of consciousness. Thanks for being a part of that. Marianne Williamson, congressional candidate, California's District 33. Really appreciate you coming on.